Many people are we expecting?
Oh, hello. Hi. Good evening, everybody, and welcome to Never Mind the Buy Box. I am joined this evening by Tom Meek. Good evening, Tom. How are you?
Hello, hi everyone. Great to be back on here. Been a while. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, no, I know. Well, we will get into that in a moment. I forget to do it every single time. Just waiting for a few people to jump on. It takes a little while for the notification to go out. So for those that are going to jump on and watch, let me know if you can see and hear us okay. I'm just going to jump on. Yes, I can see that we are live, which is good news. So let us know if you can see and hear us. Kay's joined us. Good evening, Kay. So for those who are eagle-eyed, then you might recognize Tom from a previous session that we had. And I was just trying to think, hi, Harminder. I was just trying to think when it was, and I really couldn't say when it was, to be perfectly honest. We were just saying this year's just gone so crazy. But Tom was actually with another company. You were with Avask in a previous life, and you came on to talk to us about expansion of pan-European into Europe. And was it? I don't know. It must have been pre-Brexit. It must have been.
Probably was pre-Brexit, yeah. So, you probably remember me as the fairly boring chap that was talking about taxes the whole time. But now we're not going to be focusing too much on that, which is good. But yeah, that certainly was me. I think we were probably talking about preparing for Brexit, talking about issues sellers are going to face with importing. So all of that good stuff that's probably been causing you a bit of a headache over the past sort of 7 or 8 months.
Yeah, absolutely. It was only when I started talking about it, I was thinking, no, maybe it was here, but it wasn't. It was definitely, pre-Brexit. And well, just to let you know, I mean, I know that you've not been with Payoneer for too long. The transitions, it's not like you've been with them for the last 7 or 8 months. So I'm sure you experienced it with your previous company as well. That it didn't get any easier, and it hasn't got any easier, and it's so much more complex. Some of the things that we thought were going to be easy turned out to not be so easy. And unfortunately, the majority of the people that are watching this will watch this, on the replay and everything like that, still in a position where that European sales loss has taken a huge dent in their business. Some people lost up to 30-40% of their business. So yeah, it's been a real hit, and we know that is something that whilst Amazon is aware of it and trying to fix it and things like this, it's a little bit out of their control, unfortunately. Lots of red tape. Do you think, before we get started, because I know you had previous experience in this area, do you think that this is something with the whole expansion back into Europe for a lot of people? We're introducing new platforms for people to sell on all the time. We are predominantly Amazon, but we're recently highlighting to the guys the opportunity with eBay and other platforms. Do you think that over the years, the red tape will loosen and it will become easier for people to sell back into Europe again?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, it's just down to individual opinion. I would like to think so. I think, from my experience, it's still very much complicated to sell in the UK and EU post Brexit, and I think marketplaces are, as you say, trying very hard to open that back up. I do think there has been a lot more information provided by some of the providers out there, which has really helped a lot of sellers. And there's been a lot of very proactive service providers to actually offer that consultancy for free and to assist sellers to still actually launch in new markets. So in answer to your question, I'd say, yes, I do think it is going to become a lot easier as customs offices start relaxing. VAT is now being collected and remitted for marketplace sellers. So there's a lot of large movements that have gone on around Brexit, which I don't think's helped with sort of the complexity. But I think overall it will be a good thing, and I think I'd say persevere with it because the opportunity is still there.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Now, I think you're absolutely right with the providers. They're missing that money, in particular Amazon. They're missing that chunk of change. We know from many of our European selling colleagues that the UK sellers in particular in markets like France and Germany are really being missed in terms of Amazon and being able to offer lots of different variety of products. And that's why Amazon set up their global buying program to be able to buy from sellers direct, but it's not quite there. They haven't quite got it right. But I suppose we're all being, this has been a major change, something that most of us and all of us in our lifetime have never experienced. It's a whole generation, couple of generations of being able to sell freely in Europe, and it's going to take some time to sort it out.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. I think, look back a couple of years, we're talking the Pan EU program. It was, so easy when sellers were able to sort of use the UK as the gateway to Europe. They're able to ship from China direct to the UK, really easy customs procedures. That seems like, 10, 15 years ago now, I'm sure, within the sort of the e-commerce space. But that whole expansion into Europe was really, really easy. And there's been a number of complexities that have come in because of Brexit and the changes. But I really do think that when there's challenges, there's opportunity. And I think the sellers that had mastered that and put the hard graft in sort of jumping over those hurdles that presented themselves, earlier this year, they're the ones that are winning now from what I've seen.
Yeah, absolutely, for sure. Right. Well, let's dive into the reason we are here. So I'll just say hello. Joanna's joined us evening. Darren says he can see and hear us all right. Probably should have checked that a bit sooner. That's fine. Guys, say hello to Tom and give us a few likes and love just so we can send out the notification to everyone. Paul says evening, Paul. Now, why is Tom here, essentially? We all congratulate him on his new appointment from Avast to Payoneer. Congratulations once again. Obviously, it's always exciting. Something most of us don't experience, or certainly haven't experienced, because there is this whole other world outside of Amazon sellers. And I'm talking about Amazon or e-commerce sellers, where there's a corporate world relating to online sellers and marketplaces and things like that. And I think as sellers, we forget that sometime. And there's really good opportunity, within this kind of fast-paced, global, fast-moving e-commerce world. I often refer to it at the moment is we're in a little bit of a golden age of, e-commerce selling. And and what I wanted and why we wanted to bring you on tonight, Tom, was to introduce Payoneer as a company, because what I want to be able to do through Q4, through the Secret Wealth Project, is to be able to support as many members as possible in our community with good, reliable companies at a time when their business may need it the most. Or, Q4 is a really crazy busy time. And one of the things we will come on and talk about, sort of services. And Tom's not here selling anything or anything like that whatsoever. This is a spotlight on Payoneer, that if you guys are ever in a position that you would need a company such as Payoneer, that you've got Tom here. It's a legitimate company. I mean, I'm talking about Payoneer is not a huge multinational, finance company, but it's just to introduce you a little bit more to these companies, that if you come to use them at any point during Q4 in the future, that you can find out a little bit more about the services, what they can do, and how they can potentially help your business grow in Q4. So, Tom, if you wouldn't mind introducing yourself and then telling us a little bit about Payoneer, if that's okay.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, thanks again for having me. It's, as I say, great to be back on here. And obviously previously worked for a company called Avast Group, which are an accounting and tax experts with global offices. And we're assisting thousands of e-commerce sellers with their expansion into Europe, UK, US, Canada, you name it. We were assisting sellers from the tax point of view. So I've got about 3 to 4 years of experience within the e-commerce industry, which obviously been amazing to see where e-commerce has grown to, and to see some of the sellers that I was dealing with in my earlier days to now has been unbelievable to see. Mm-hmm. As you're saying, I've moved over to Payoneer. and we'll come on to introduction on Payoneer in a second. But I've been here for a couple of months now. Obviously focusing more on the payment side of things. So how, looking at your payment flows, looking at actually how you receive your money from the marketplaces, how you pay your suppliers, how you deal with euros, GBP, USD, all these different currencies. And actually how many of you know what the conversion rates you're being charged, what the processes is, and how someone like Payoneer, and there are others out there, but how someone like Payoneer can make your life much easier is something that we're obviously keen to dive in on. Payoneer currently assists over 5 million SMBs, e-commerce sellers. So we're not new to this. We're definitely the largest player and sort of the number one financial services provider within the e-commerce space. So certainly been around for a while and dealt with a lot of sellers in a similar position to yourselves, I'm sure. And I'd also say that Payoneer is really focused on building their platform, building everything to do with the services, the flows all around e-commerce, okay? Because we understand the complexities of how e-commerce works. So, what does Payoneer do? Payoneer offer a number of different products, but I'd say that the main product is that we offer local receiving accounts for different currencies. So you can have a Euro account, GBP, USD account, and so on, so that you can receive your funds in the local currency instead of having to deal with international wires and higher conversion rates. But we're going to come on to that in a second. And our second larger product is our Capital Advance solution. And the Capital Advance solution is our sort of shorter term lending solution, again, for e-commerce sellers, so that you can prep for peak seasons and you can launch new products and you can do all those good things, obviously, that Amazon and the other marketplaces has presented the opportunities there.
Absolutely. And I think with companies like yourself coming onto the market has really being able to, especially over the last couple of years, has been able to fuel the growth of lots of different e-commerce sellers. I mean, obviously, as you already know, we are predominantly a community of Amazon sellers, but you deal with platforms of, all the different platforms. That's right, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. So we've got sort of two main lines of business. Obviously, I've just mentioned the two products, but we are actually, in partnership and doing business daily with the likes of Amazon, Google, Shopify, Airbnb, Booking.com. So we have a large presence from the enterprise side, but also obviously dealing with SMBs and sort of e-commerce sellers on a daily basis as well.
I think that's us in the world of Amazon. We think Amazon is the be all and the end all, but there are actually a few other, slightly profitable companies out there that people would use your services for sure. Now, you said obviously you're working with up to 5 million. Is that worldwide? So you're in probably, dozens of different countries. Absolutely,
yeah. So, obviously our clients come from over 200 countries. We're dealing with over 150 currencies. We actually have over 25 locations globally. And in 2019, just to give you an idea, we sort of transacted through around $30 billion of volume. So yeah, it's a large outfit, and hopefully that just sort of gives you that peace of mind that you need. That we've been doing this for years, and the whole idea of the service is to make it much more user friendly and also much cheaper for you to actually move money around.
Yeah, again, and this is what we always talk about, being in this kind of golden age of selling. I remember when 20 odd years ago, when we first got into the e-commerce space, and to transfer money, you used to have to go to World Union or I can't remember what they're called. You had to go down to the post office and you had to send a physical. I know I don't look that old, but you had to Western Union. That's it. Western Union.
Western Union, yeah.
Yeah, Western Union. And you had to send like a physical, transfer of money. And you didn't know whether or not you were going to see this money ever again. because it was like literally you would do the transfer, you would send it to whoever you were going to send it to. It could take like 10 days to get there. Like I said, they could run off with the money. You could never see it again. There was no protections. There was no, guarantees or anything like that whatsoever. And now just, probably it was similar sort of 10-15 years ago as well. It's really been the last sort of decade that it's really come through. So in terms of your kind of what is Payoneer for? Is it a bank? Is it a finance company? And how is it regulated, just for that kind of peace of mind?
Yeah, of course. So we're a fintech payments provider. So as I said, we have a number of core products that we offer. So we're not essentially a bank, but I would say that sort of within the fintech payments providers, I'd say. So part of that means that we'd be sort of a part of the PSP, so the payment service providers with Amazon as well, which a lot of you guys might be familiar with. And actually, you need to have a regulated payment services provider through Amazon so you can actually receive your funds. That's and we are regulated, yes. So we actually completed an IPO a couple of weeks back now. We're now public on NASDAQ. Obviously that's been a massive shift for us as a company and a huge milestone.
Yeah, awesome. So like I said, it's just all of these type of companies coming through in the last 10 years, making massive strides and helping people who run small to medium businesses. I mean, you said it yourself that in Avask, you saw some pretty eye-watering numbers with some of the people that you were dealing with. In terms of future, I mean, we will talk about, future and things like that. But in your opinion, are the marketplaces, and I know you deal with Shopify and things like that as well, but do you see this as where it's at for modern day business moving forward now?
I'd say, just from an e-commerce perspective, do you mean? I'd say, I think obviously COVID, I was listening to a podcast last week and they're saying that over the course of COVID, they reckon that, e-commerce has accelerated by 6 to 7 years or something. It's been an incredible growth that we've all seen. And I think that's really shifted consumer habits and I think it's there to stay. An example that I've used countless times now and it still sort of boggles me is going to my grandparents' house, seeing the iPad on the table and them doing their Amazon buying or, shopping online, whatever it might be. And I think that was the biggest realization for me was that, we talk about everyone using Amazon, everyone, getting used to e-commerce and buying online. But when you actually see, that person that had never picked up a phone before, a mobile phone, to now actually having to use that because of, the situation with COVID, I think that was a big eye opener for me. And for that reason, I think, as soon as you get used to something and find things very comfortable, I think there's no reason why you would want to change that. Of course, there's going to be, some element of people that are still going to want to be going back to their older habits. But I certainly think that the e-commerce is definitely the go-to now. And you can see why. I think it's very obvious as to, why e-commerce is growing and why it will continue to grow.
Yeah, absolutely. I completely agree. I think the world has changed. It's totally been accelerated by COVID, by the pandemic. And yes, we will go back to some sort of normality. I've been saying it for a while. I feel like COVID's like a distant memory now. I know it's not. But it does feel like it is. The only thing is, yes, many of us are still not able to go abroad for different reasons or whatever. But it definitely feels like there's been this bit of a shift. But then saying that, we were in London, for personal reasons last weekend or weekend before or something like that. And it was dead there. There was hardly. So it is while we feel like we're moving on, we're not really kind of moving on. So we're in this sort of weird kind of limbo at the moment. But like I say to anyone, for anyone that's thinking of starting or getting into selling in the e-commerce space, now is the time to do it. It's not oversaturated. You must see all of the time, you know, new businesses coming on, people growing their business, people are scaling their business to levels where, you know, they were not able to do 10 years ago.
Absolutely. Yeah. I think, you know, yeah, it's not something that can be done overnight. It's something that you know, it is a business. You need to, you know, take the opportunity as if it is your own business. It's extremely important. And there's, as you say, so much opportunity out there that's available to be exploited. I think, you can look at it in two ways. I think it's actually never been easier to start selling online.
Yeah.
All of the processes have become so much easier. I was speaking to a seller that was you know, trading before FBA was even created, and they're like, well, you know, if I started selling now, like, it'd just be an absolute walk in the park, because you know, fulfillment by Amazon have just made, you know, distribution and you know, that whole, you know, really complex part so much easier. And to be able to have, you know, launch in your home marketplace and quickly expand throughout Europe and the US and many other sort of emerging markets as well, not just on Amazon, but also on other marketplaces, really is an absolutely unbelievable opportunity to reach that many clients, that many potential buyers out there, just from opening up those other marketplaces. So yeah, I think it's definitely here to stay. I think the opportunity's there, and I'd say that there has been quite a few people that have been put off because of the complexities of Brexit and you know, with COVID, there have been a few issues. But as I say, those sellers that have navigated through that have been the ones that are extremely successful now.
Oh, I could not agree more. I think the people that look at the challenging situations like they are opportunity, find a way around them. Don't sit back and say, well, I'm not going to be able to do this anymore because this is stopping me. You know, those people, you know, they'll probably limp on for a little while. But I remember watching something, I think it was the global head of like Santander, or the European head of Santander. And she was talking about, you know, global expansion and things like that. And, you know, business, how it was, and this acceleration of growth because of the pandemic. And that if you were in a traditional business, and if you do not migrate your business online in the next year, 18 months, 2 years, you're dead in the water, essentially.
100%.
You know, there's no doubt about it. So I think having all of these services here to be able to support people to do it, because one of the things we were talking about beforehand is, again, there have been some challenges because, you know, with some financial companies over the last 12 months to do with the sheer bulk of new people coming to sell online and things like that. So one thing I wanted to highlight about Payoneer is you offer a standard business bank account for anyone that hasn't yet started selling on Amazon. Is that right?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think whatever stage you're at, we deal with sellers that are really small and just started, and we deal with, you know, some of the largest as well. So I'd say that, you know, whatever position you're in, Payoneer is a solution for you. I don't obviously want to make this sort of like me talking about Payoneer the whole time, because I want to provide value to the group and answer as many questions as possible. But, you know, it is free to set up a Payoneer account. And you're then able to have, you know, as I said, your local receiving accounts, which I'm sure we can come on to. And I think that's absolutely essential to get set up correctly, as much as you possibly can in the early days of your, you know, business, whether you're just looking to grow, whether you're, you know, looking to eventually exit. All of these different things are really going to help you get a really set structure in place for you to be able to scale, you know, your business efficiently, especially when you launch in new markets, new countries, new currencies. So that's sort of where Payoneer come in. And obviously happy to go through sort of the products in a bit more detail as well.
Yeah, should we do that now? Do you want to do that now? And then if anyone's got any questions, we can go through and look at that, and then we can have a little bit about a chat about those afterwards and ask some different questions. If anyone's got any questions for Tom, just let us know in the comments as we go through. I don't know if I need to. You should be able to share from there. I think.
I think I am good. Yeah, let me know if you can see my screen.
Okay, I just have to add it in there. There we go.
Okay, good to go.
Yeah, I think we are.
So yeah, obviously on the Payoneer side, as I say, it's free to set up an account, and you're probably thinking, okay, well, Payoneer deal with the payment side and they deal with sort of the currency, but how does that actually work? Okay, so just very briefly going to explain sort of what the core fundamentals, and then we can maybe talk about capital advance as well. But the main USP, the main unique selling point of Payoneer, I would say, is having local receiving accounts. Okay. Well, firstly, why do you actually want a local receiving account? The main reason is that when you're selling, let's say you're a UK-based business and you're selling in Europe or you're selling in the US, obviously you're being paid by the marketplace in a different currency. Okay, so you might be getting paid in USD or euro, and what will happen is the marketplace will then be responsible for converting your funds back to your home marketplace unless you have a same currency account. So I'm sure a lot of you are familiar, and I'm sure you can back me up on this as well. But as you receive funds, you actually need to input your bank details, your IBAN, your personal local bank details. And unless you have a local receiving account, the marketplace will be responsible for doing those conversions, which we're going to have a look at in a second. But with Payoneer, you'll actually be able to have an account in all of these different currencies. So 9 or 10, I believe, in total. The main ones that the sellers are using are these ones here. So your GBP, Euro, USD, Canadian dollar, Australian dollar, Japanese yen, and so on. So what that means is that you're able to set up a free bank account in your business's name in all of these currencies. So when you receive your funds from Amazon.com in USD, you're going to be paid in USD to your Payoneer USD account. Okay. And we're going to go on to the benefit of that in just a second. I don't know if you had any questions there.
No, I think we're right at this stage. All pretty straightforward so far. Oh, you're explaining it pretty well.
Great. So every user has a unique set of virtual bank accounts, as we just discussed. The benefit is there's much lower FX fees. And clients, marketplace services, and payment gateways can make a local bank transfer into any of these accounts. So let's just look at this in a bit more detail. So solving problems for cross-border e-commerce sellers. So we've got our marketplace services. So let's look at this. So basically what you'll be doing is you'll be selling on Amazon, let's say. Amazon have Amazon currency conversion, the ACC. And basically what you'll be doing is, as I said in that example, from a US point of view, is that if you're a UK-based business and you're wanting to be paid your Amazon.com receivables and you give them the UK balance, Amazon will be basically doing an FX, doing the foreign exchange for you and converting your funds from USD to GBP, but also building in a margin as well, which can be typically anywhere from 1.5 to 2.5% in most cases, which a lot of sellers aren't actually aware of. Okay, so there's a big fee there. Then what happens is that obviously where your funds are then in your UK, your GBP account in this example, you then need to then make international wire transfers to pay your suppliers, to pay your VAT, whatever it might be. And then there's additional charges, which can be as much as 5%. On top of that, because then you may need to pay your suppliers in USD, or you may need to pay your VAT in euros and so on. So the idea of the Payoneer account is that you're able to have funds within your different receiving accounts, and you're able to make in-network payments for free. So you can pay your suppliers, you can pay VAT for free through the Payoneer account. So it makes it much, much easier for you to be able to move those funds around. Payoneer do charge, so we're not completely free, but this is a much more favorable exchange rates and much lower fees. So typically we would be starting at around 2%, but depending on volumes, we are able to sort of negotiate on that. And that can lead to some really big savings across the board.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. So I don't know if anyone had any questions on that, but I think it's fairly straightforward. Payoneer's payment service allows sellers to receive funds in local currency, removing the additional exchange rates, as and when Payoneer actually receive their money, it's really when the money leaves the Payoneer account. So that's when we build in our fee.
Mm-hmm.
There is another slide actually which does demonstrate this much better, which I will try and find. I'm sure we're going to cross that a bit later on. Yeah, we'll cross that a bit later on.
Okay, that's cool. What I was going to ask actually is, because obviously the transfer accounts, especially for us Amazon guys who have lost the facility to be selling in Europe, was the most popular one, but I think more people now are looking to transfer over to the US market because it's, in terms of language, it's, and market, obviously America's a much bigger market, but, it's a parallel market for us. It's the one take away Germany, take away France, even with their language differences, it's probably US is the easiest platform to transfer over to now. So if someone's going to be not changing over, or if they're going to be adding the US to their particular business, then signing up with yourselves or like Payoneer is going to be a really smart move, because obviously what you have to do is, you have to collect the money in US dollars, and you do not want to be paying those Amazon fees to transfer it back.
Exactly. Yeah, that's exactly that. Any form of cross-border payments, cross-border FX. If you're selling in multiple currencies, then Payoneer is going to be a much more favourable way of moving that money around.
Yeah, absolutely. And one of the questions I wanted to ask, actually, because we've started selling in the US ourselves recently, and one of the things that we always wanted to do was eventually at some point be able to spend some time longer term, once our children are older in the future, living in America. So if I have, the Payoneer account, I've got my there, and I want to spend my money in my Payoneer account, is there any way that I can do that directly?
Yeah, so so
I don't have to pay, so I can use local money in the local area, even though I'm not a resident there. Does that make sense?
Yeah, exactly. You can use it as if it's a bank account, so it work exactly the same. We also actually do have a fairly new product, which is our credit card, which would obviously be able to, to help you there as well. But yeah, I mean, if you're going over to the US and you wanted to use your Payoneer account, then you would be able to do so. But I'd say that the majority of sellers that are looking to use Payoneer, it's mainly so that they can, receive funds at a much lower exchange, and also then pay their suppliers in the same currency and minimize those additional fees.
Yeah, I just love the thought. A lot of people that are watching this will watch the replay are people that want to live that kind of digital nomad life, where they can work out of different countries and things like that. And having a payment provider such as yourself, where you can draw on your funds in whatever country, in whatever currency that you are, makes that digital nomad existence that little bit more achievable, doesn't it?
Absolutely. Yeah, I think, as we were saying at the start, it's becoming much easier to sell in different places. And I think if you didn't have someone like Payoneer alongside you, then it'd be much more complicated, and it really can, affect your margins. We're talking, anywhere from sort of 2, 3, up to 8% in some cases that we're saving sellers just on, moving money around, which is incredible, really.
Oh, yeah. I remember when I first started selling on Amazon, and, we didn't have a transfer wallet or anything like that. And you see the differences that are made. And that's 5, 6 years ago. And obviously companies like Payoneer, the margins have become, even more competitive since then. But still, I mean, Amazon, I think they did make a change, didn't they? Was it a couple of months ago where they sort of like realized they were probably missing out on so much, so they cut their transfer rate a bit, but it was still nowhere near what any of the other sort of providers could offer.
Yeah, exactly. I think, as I said, dealing with thousands of clients really over the course of 3 to 4 years with Avask, it was extremely apparent that not a lot of sellers knew sort of the FX charges that were built in. And Amazon were charging much higher fees. Now there are sort of different thresholds in place. So dependent on turnover, you may, as you breach sort of up to over 500,000 per annum, or over 100,000 per annum, there's different thresholds in which those FX charges do go down slightly. But yeah, in comparison to the likes of Payoneer and so on, they are still much more expensive. So it's definitely worth reviewing that opportunity as quickly as possible and work out where the savings are, because margins are normally fairly tight for e-commerce sellers, and if you're losing up to 3 to 8%, at the end, then you're doing something wrong.
Oh, absolutely. And we are talking about, many people in this community who sell, who watch this video, really do work on some very slim margins. So being able to claw back every single bit of profit is absolutely vital, guys. So if you are using Amazon transfer services, and that goes to stand to, I'll come on to Harminder's question in a moment, that goes to stand that people, whilst many of us selling into Europe from the UK do not have that facility, I know there will be people watching this, and I'll do a post about it as well, that are based outside of the UK that are receiving their money in GB, UK pounds, and then transferring it back, and maybe not even realizing that they are probably losing money through that way. Because I know here we talk about us as UK sellers and UK, and it's all about this and it's all about that. But I know that there are loads of people in our community that it works the other way, and maybe we don't talk about that so much, but equally they could be losing out massively.
Yeah, completely agree. I think whatever situation you're in, if you're dealing with any cross-border sales, then Payoneer is going to be a great solution for you, and obviously free to set up as well. So you've got nothing to lose there. I'd say that with a lot of the changes that have come into place from the tax side, and moving away from that industry, I'd still recommend that you sort of speak to your own tax providers about this. But a lot of sellers are now in rebate positions, especially with their import VAT. So something that I've been hearing much more of is that where the marketplace is collecting and remitting those taxes for sellers are still able to reclaim their import VAT, which means that often they're in a credited or a rebate position. And a lot of these sellers that aren't based in the UK or the EU, or vice versa, depending on where the rebate's due, they are getting hit by the exchange rates, by the tax office. So having a Payoneer account will allow you to receive that in the local currency and move it around as you please. So bear that in mind as well.
Absolutely. They'll get you everywhere they can, for sure.
Yeah. And one other point actually on that is something that I mentioned very briefly, is the VAT at the end is a massive selling point, I'd say, for Payoneer users, because you are able to remit funds direct to the tax office, and for absolutely free as well. So if you're at the moment, if you're based outside of Europe or the UK, and you're paying any form of money to the tax offices for whatever reason, whether it's Shopify or own website sales or whatever it might be, then you're probably getting hit on an international wire transfer, which, as it says here, 3, 4, 5%, whereas Payoneer would be free. So bear that in mind as well.
Phenomenal. So Harminder has asked, is it hassle to add Payoneer to Amazon in terms of verification? Yo has replied and said no, so presumably has already gone through that process. So thank you for clarifying that, but I'll let you expand on that a little bit more, Tom.
It's a great question. So no, it's really, really straightforward to do. I believe we actually have a guide on YouTube on Payoneer's account, which I'm happy to share with everyone after, as to how you do that. Maybe just so I go over sort of what the steps would be to set up a Payoneer account. I can provide a link, or yourself can provide the link within the group, and everyone can go through that link. And once you've signed up, normally we'd be able to issue an account within 24 to 48 hours, depending on the documentation, as we do have sort of some KYC and AML checks, of course, to go through as we're a regulated company. Once you've got your Payoneer account set up, you'll be able to open up your different receiving accounts very, very quickly. You'll normally be issued with GBP and USD immediately, and also Euro. So that's sort of the core currency set up already. And then you'll be able to obviously start receiving funds, and you'll be issued your IBAN, the details, and you'll basically just need to go into Amazon and update your payment methods. There was an issue a couple of years back now where Amazon had requirements for two-step authentication, which caused a few issues, but that is now not the case, and sellers are able to switch accounts very, very easily.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, I think that's, again, it's something that you constantly find within the world of Amazon in terms of verification. They do make things, more difficult. But I'll tell you what, I was watching this thing on Panorama last night, changing the subject very quickly, and I think I understand a little bit more now. I've always understood why Amazon do have so many verification checks in place, so much, they put so much emphasis on it because, it is so easy to get scammed now, one. And of course, they are trying to cut out as much fraud as possible from the marketplaces. A few years ago, if you're relatively new to selling on Amazon, anyone could sort of log on, change your bank account. There was no checks in place, and they could withdraw all of your funds, and they could run off with like 10 grand or something like that. So I know we moan about it, but these things are here for our protection, essentially.
Absolutely. Yeah, couldn't agree more. And I know we've obviously spent more time on sort of the cross-border, the payments.
Yes, absolutely. There's one actually before we move on, because this is really exciting, and we talked about this briefly beforehand. So I just wanted to, because Payoneer is making some really big strides, and you're kind of throwing your weight as a company behind certain marketplaces, and your eyes kind of lit up when I sort of talked about this earlier. Was I was saying we're predominantly Amazon, but we're introducing eBay, lots of different platforms and things like that. Now, for anyone that doesn't know, obviously iOS, the international one-stop shop for selling into Europe, hasn't panned out as much as we all hoped it would at this stage. Not saying it won't do in the future, for Amazon to European sales. But one marketplace, which is eBay, we know has pretty much got it right, where there's masses of opportunity, is eBay to the European marketplace, which you can do through their global shipping program, which opens up this fingers crossed whole new world for European sellers. But what was really interesting, which Tom was telling me before, is that Payoneer is actually going to be a big part of that moving forward, of helping people grow and expand into the European market through eBay. That's right, isn't it?
Exactly, yeah. So we've just signed off on a deal with eBay. So in a huge number of jurisdictions that using Payoneer for sort of receivables and their mass payouts will also be part of the Payoneer puzzle, if you like. So yeah, I mean, from our side, from a partnerships perspective, we have over 3,500 partners globally, and a lot of them are sort of the marketplaces and things. So we've got a great reputation within the space, and that's just down to the product range that we offer and how simple it is to use the service.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it just screams volumes to the fact that you guys have done, this exclusive deal to be able, the European payment provider for choice of eBay. Because again, we were talking beforehand, and, Tom absolutely agreed. Hopefully I'm not putting words into your mouth, where, yes, we've all been about Amazon for a really long time, but you are very much, in the forefront of this, and you are of the mind that the other marketplaces, especially eBay, are starting to bridge that gap a little bit. Is that right?
Absolutely, yeah. I think I've been sort of dealing with a lot of other marketplaces outside of Amazon, and yeah, Amazon is a great place to start. And I think it's linked back to COVID, where there's and Brexit has been that there's been a lot of complication with shipping cross border, which hopefully is easing, and I'm sure it is now. And a lot of sellers have sort of looked at other marketplaces within their home countries to see, well, if I'm able to get inventory into X, Y, and Z country, what are my other opportunities? And, Amazon isn't always the biggest marketplace. In some cases, it's nowhere near the biggest in some countries. So I'd say be mindful of that. And I'd also say that, the likes of OnBuy in the UK and now through Europe is also growing. I think it's the quickest growing marketplace at the moment. So check out OnBuy. You've got Wayfair for certain product types and furniture and things like that. You've got, Allegro and Real. So many different marketplaces across Europe that I think present a huge opportunity. So I'd say be mindful of that. And you've done the hard work. If you've sourced, you've got your product range. You've done the hard work when you've got there. So look at the other opportunities, and that sort of brings us onto 3PL, I suppose, as well. I'd say that from my experience, sellers that are really successful in taking their e-commerce business to the next level will be looking at having a 3PL provider. And I think that's really been a catalyst of the inventory limits that Amazon have set, and to make sure that you've got that plan B, or at least that drip feeding from a third-party logistics center into Amazon FBA. And of course, once your products are in a 3PL, you're then able to sell direct to consumer on other marketplaces and have the 3PL facilitate the sale.
Absolutely. Hearing you talk about that at that point, it just reminds me that we are a very small cog in an incredibly complex and big sales machine, essentially, and we guys are just scratching the surface of it. Definitely the Secret Wealth Project is the place to be over the next couple of years, because I promise you guys, we start in online arbitrage and that's the area that we move into, but there is a big bad world out there of opportunity in the e-commerce space, and I want as many people to be able to uncover it as much as possible, but making sure you're getting things set up right in the first place. And that's part of the reason why Tom is here as well. So when that global expansion comes into different countries, into different marketplaces, then you guys are fully equipped to be able to take that step with confidence. So let's talk about the other thing that we're going to talk about tonight. We are on the edge of Q4. It's so close. We can almost touch it. We can almost feel it. Yes, it's still 7 weeks away, but I'll tell you what, guys, if you're not sourcing for Christmas now, then you're missing a trick. So Q4 is very much in our minds at the moment. We're seeing a lot of things like stock shortages. I think what we're going to experience, with everything that's going on with China and the shipments and Brexit and the Suez Canal and all of those compounding effects, COVID that have led to what are some calling stock shortages this year, this Q4, which, by the way, we have been talking about since January. So don't say we didn't warn you guys. So I think what's going to happen this year uniquely, and part of one of the reasons why I wanted to get Tom on to talk to you guys about this as much as possible, is many of you over the next few weeks are going to be buying like crazy. You're going to be faced with opportunity to maybe buy in bulk. And maybe you might not have the cash flow to be able to do it. Your business might not have the cash flow to be able to support that. For any of you that are looking for that level of support this Q4, because you can bet your life, if you watch groups like this, Tom, during Q4, the biggest bugbear that everybody has is they run out of money, essentially. Literally haven't got the cash flow to be able to deal with the demand. Personally, I think the demand's going to be even bigger this year. I think the opportunity is going to be even bigger this year. So we want to make sure that we know that we have secure, reliable services in place for our community members to feel that they can take that step in their business if you want to. This isn't a sales pitch, by the way. This is most definitely for those who feel it's going to be suitable for at that point in their business.
Yeah, couldn't agree more. And I think, just to take it a step further, I think if you look at, I'm sure everyone is fairly familiar with the aggregators that are out there that are, buying private label product brands out there. all they're doing really, I mean, yes, there's a huge amount more that they're doing, but generally speaking, they are pumping cash into inventory, number one, and then they're spending money on launching in new marketplaces, expanding the business, and increasing advertising spend and so on. And I think this really correlates to cash flow. As it does with any business, it's absolutely essential to inject cash at the right time. You can see a few stats here actually that I find astonishing. 1 out of 3 newly established businesses fail because they run out of cash. 61% of businesses regularly struggle with cash flow, and 42% experience financial challenges in the past 12 months. So if you're in that position and you're not on your own, it's very normal, which is why sort of Payoneer have also come up with a capital advance solution, which I'm going to be just talking you through in just a second. But the challenge one is because you buy your stock today, it doesn't mean that you're going to, as soon as you sell it, you get your funds. And what that journey is, it can be a very long wait for cash. Okay. In some cases, it can be as much as, anywhere from 3 to 6, 7 months. That sales cycle is quite a long process. Maybe not so much on the retail arbitrage, but certainly on the private label side, I think it's definitely a longer wait for cash, generally speaking.
Yeah.
And challenge 2 is scaling your business. So, when you want to launch new products, launch in new markets, invest in marketing and maximize peak periods, which of course is what we're discussing now, preparing for Q4, you don't want to run out of stock. So obviously solving the cash problem. Well, what can you do to solve the cash problem? You can analyze your sales channels, you can budget properly, or you can look at additional working capital. And there's a number of different ways that sellers can look for working capital and different types of finance, things like term loans, invoice finance, obviously merchant cash advance, revolving credit facilities. And then we've also got Payoneer's capital advance down here as well. So Payoneer's capital advance is for Payoneer users only, but it allows you to purchase your marketplace service future receivables. So this gives a fairly good example here. So the idea is that if you are to receive money from the marketplace into your Payoneer account, which obviously hopefully most of you will be doing after this video today, if you're not already, then you will be able to take a loan based on those receivables and then pay it back at very favorable terms. So we'll come on to that in a second. There's no lengthy application process. It's instant, and there's no personal guarantees or credit checks and no complicated fees. So if you're looking for capital advance and injection of cash for Q4 or to launch in new marketplaces, whatever it may be, then I'm sure this solution will be for you.
Absolutely. Are there any type of, you're probably going to go on to this. I was going to say, are there any type of minimum requirements? Do you need to have an Amazon account for a certain amount of time? Does it need to be turning over a certain amount of money? Are there any type of requirements in terms of that? Or is it individually based on, what's just going into your Payoneer account?
Yeah, of course. So where there's no sort of personal guarantee, which is obviously a massive selling point over our lending products over others, is yes, there are certain requirements. So usually we would like to see at least 6 months, if not more, of receivables coming into your Payoneer account. That will be sort of on a case by case basis, and the offer doesn't stand for everyone. But in terms of volumes, I can come on to that in just a second. But yeah, we would like to see usually around 6 months as a minimum, so we get used to that consistency of growth and what we can expect to see and lend. And
that is obviously if you are a multi-channel e-commerce seller, that will be from based on the money from eBay, could be Shopify, could be Amazon. Is that right? It's not just Amazon.
Yeah. So that definitely will be taken into account. The capital advance is mainly around Amazon that we offer it through, but depending on the receivables that are coming through the Payoneer account, then that will be taken into account for any sort of lending capabilities there. But we have our sort of two main products, which we have three products now, but these are maybe sort of more relevant for today. So we've got our Capital Advance Express offer, and we've got a Capital Advance Grow offer as well. So two slightly different offers, but still, obviously offering that working capital. So just to maybe go through the Capital Advance Express offer, this is where everyone would start, no matter how big or small they are, because we always start off with an Express to make sure that, we can build that relationship with the client. But the concept is it's a short-term offering over 30 days, and it's a 50% settlement. The capital, we would usually be able to match up to half the expected monthly volume. So if you're receiving, if you're receiving 100,000 that month, then we'd be able to lend 50,000 in most cases. But again, that will depend on a case-by-case basis. And the repayment period would be over 1 month. And our collection per seller payment would be 50% from store payments. So we actually wait for your receivables to come through from the marketplace before we take that. But obviously for that injection of cash, the Express offer is a really good option, especially if you're buying for peak seasons and, increasing your inventory spend and so on. And as I mentioned, the target population here is for new working capital customers. Mm-hmm. And then the Capital Advance Grow, very similar, except for it's just slightly larger offering. So this is a midterm offering over 90 days, and it's a 35% settlement. We can offer up to 500,000 on the Capital Advance Grow offer, up to sort of a 1 monthly volume, so we can match what your receivables would be over that month. Mm-hmm. The repayment period is much longer, over 3 to 4%, and as I said, 35% from store payment, trusted repeat working capital customers. So if you've done an Express with us, then you're much more likely to be able to issue a Grow.
And the Capital Advance Grow looks like a core Q4 growth, support package, essentially, doesn't it? It covers the full quarter. You can pay it back over that period of time, and that big injection of cash that you might need in order to fuel the buying and the growth. And then hopefully once Q4 is done, you've come out the other end, you've paid it all back, and then you just take the difference in the profit.
Exactly. And our fee for that is fixed. So I think if I go on to there's a slide just coming up now. So this is an example of how the offer would look. So this amazing t-shirt has gone for a 50,000 advance from Capital Advance. That was the offer. This is a Grow over 35% of each marketplace payment, and it's a fixed fee. So on this case, it's 3%, so 1,500. So the settlement amount would be 51,500 USD, and that would be collected over the 3 to 4 months, because it's the Grow product, and that would only be requested when you get paid from the marketplace, because we understand that we don't want to request that until you've been paid. So it's a much more user friendly way of lending, and obviously
very simple.
Very simple, and obviously no hidden fees. It's a fixed rate, so perfect. So you don't have to worry about further interest and so on.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the thing with some of the other kind of lending options, or people use Capital on Tap, they use different lending options, they use Amazon sometimes, or people use regular banks, essentially. I know that's hard to believe for anyone watching, but people do sometimes use regular banks now for growth. But with something like that, just paying a fixed fee, I think most people, even me, I'm not so good on the percentages, but even I can get my head around a fixed fee. There's no APRs to work out, or daily interest, or if you pay it back sooner, or if you do this or do that. I mean, if you do pay it back sooner, I take it as it's a fixed fee. That makes no difference whatsoever.
There are actually different clauses within that. So if you do pay back quicker, then the fee can be lowered. So if anyone has any questions on that, happy to answer any questions on Facebook, on messages or so on. But there are actually favourable repayment terms as well. But most sellers, where they're looking for sort of, as you say, that 3 to 4 month period, are typically waiting to be paid from Amazon and marketplaces.
No, absolutely. I think this is something that is going to be phenomenally attractive for these guys during Q4. Something that, yeah, definitely the biggest thing that people really do struggle with in Q4. And it can really, Amazon's a frustrating business enough at the end of the day. And then to be in the most successful period of the year and get frustrated for a whole different reason, one that's outside of your control, that used to be outside of the control before companies like Payoneer came along. Now you guys are going to be able to have someone reputable to call and Tom, I'm sure you won't mind getting the odd tag in the group if someone's got some questions or anything like that whatsoever, will you?
Absolutely, yeah. Feel free to reach out to me directly. Obviously, I think I've been tagged on the post today, and I'm sure I'll follow up with any questions that have been asked. So yeah, feel free to get in touch. As I said, it's free to set up an account. It's a huge added bonus to have to be able to receive funds, and just to be able to receive locally and pay VAT and pay your suppliers for your Payoneer account is enough. But working capital, as we say, preparing for Q4 is absolutely essential. And some of the most successful sellers I've spoken to are the ones that have invested in enough inventory, and they have had a great Q4. And hopefully that's everyone listening to today's session.
Yeah, absolutely. So guys, if you are in a position where you can see yourself over the next 6 to 12 months, which I know you will be in this position, because being part of the Secret Wealth community, we will make sure you are in this position, to expand into different marketplaces, to think about heading back into Europe through eBay, maybe expanding transatlantically, going across to the US. We've done it ourselves over the last 4 months. We've been blown away by the market and how easy it is that's the wrong word. The reason why I think we found it slightly easier is because we have to outsource everything, so everything's being done for us, but how transferable, there we go, that's a better word, it is to move into the different markets. Next markets we'll be going into ourselves are Canada and Mexico, which Tom obviously showed and highlighted some financial options there, and some of the other marketplaces as well. OnBuy, we've heard a little bit about that tonight, so that's the first time we've really heard someone talking about OnBuy. Thanks for mentioning that. I had no idea that they were the fastest growing marketplace at the moment. And some of the other ones that you've mentioned, depending on type of different products, Etsy, all of these different marketplaces, fantastic opportunity to expand, into different countries, into different currencies, into different marketplaces, selling different types of products. Just because you sell online arbitrage in the UK, it doesn't mean you can't consider selling private label in Germany, or it doesn't mean that you can't, consider making a homemade product and selling it on Wayfair in, I don't know, Spain or something like that. It's a big, bad world out there, definitely for opportunity. And, using a facility, having a trusted payment provider, financial tech company, such a Payoneer, set up with your accounts. The way I sort of see it is, as these guys grow, you offer the facilities to enable them to grow and to grow with them.
Absolutely. Yeah, couldn't agree more. I think that the opportunities there, as we've discussed, I'd say embrace it. E-commerce is only going one way, and use the providers that are out there to help you succeed, especially the ones that are free to set up and make your lives much easier and save you money in the process.
Absolutely. I am just going to pop a link. It is the Secret Wealth Project, affiliate link here. We're always open and honest. So if anyone wants to sign up, please feel free to use the link. I think you'll agree with Tom this evening. We're not interested in recommending, non-legitimate services. So for us, I've always been really impressed with Tom. Tom, I could honestly talk to you all day about the movers and shakers with what's going on with Amazon, what's going on with the world of e-commerce and everything like that. And maybe if you've got time with that capital lending opportunity, you can pop back and see us maybe more in the depths of Q4 when everyone's getting a bit desperate and needing some money then.
Absolutely, yeah. More than happy to pop back. More than happy for people to come through that link I provided. That's the best way to sign up, or just drop me a message. But yeah, obviously, I really appreciate everyone's time, and thank you, obviously, for having me back on here. It's been great to talk to you again.
Yeah, absolutely. And by the way, not just for capital lending, that link. So if you are new and you are starting out and you are wanting a business bank account, one thing we did forget to mention, then I'll let you go, Tom, I promise, is that some of the other banks that we've recommended previously, like Starling, we don't want to name, name names or things like that, but Tom actually mentioned himself that some of the requirements that some of the other banks that have put in place, Payoneer tend to look on a little bit more favorably. So if you are starting out and it's a pretty easy process to get set up through Payoneer. So that's the other thing I just wanted to admit. But make sure you use our link to sign up. And then Tom knows that you have come from the Secret Wealth Products. The only reason we do it, Tom knows that you've come from the Secret Wealth Project, and then hopefully he'll come back and spend some more time telling us about all the movers and the shakers, definitely within the world of e-commerce.
Absolutely. Thank you very much.
Thanks, guys. I will see you same time next week, 7 o'clock. Have a great week. And see you all next week. Take care. Bye.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. See you later.